So we met a guy here that lived in this village. His name's Lorenzo, and he's from Kentucky. But he just moved out here. He's been here for like 3 years. He helps the village out. He like does a lot of construction for them. He literally dedicated like his whole life, his whole work to just living out here and helping these people. He's showing us his little house that he built down here. He built it himself, and this is the trail I'm taking to get to it. Steep little trail down to his shack, but it's like literally right here. He's got a couple solar panels up there.
These are walnut, actually. Oh, yeah. If you guys ever have to use the bathroom, you guys can use this one if you want. It's actually a concrete toilet. It's actually biblical, right? But it says to dig a hole and defecate in it. It's 21 foot deep, and it goes down to a layer of sand, so it just kind of like filters itself out. There you go. I do a few more.
Is this coffee that was grown around here?
Yeah, that's Antigua coffee. And this one and this one mixed.
You mixed them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is one of my favorites. I normally like dark roast, but it's a medium roast. It's called Medina, and it's a Antigua coffee, Arabica bean.
Yeah,
It's really
probably the best coffee I've ever had.
Is it good?
It's hot, but he put some cinnamon in it. How was that?
That's pretty good coffee right there.
So have you ever considered like renting it out to people, like if they want to come stay?
Yeah, I thought about it. My idea was just if I could provide like a place for missionaries to come, I want to just do like a free place, and eventually I want to build another house right here. So like either I live here or live there. I live in the sauna again. I lived in the sauna for almost a year, and I just want to like do something different where like people don't have to pay to volunteer, you know. So if they want to pay something, it's like directly for the people rather than for like the organization, you know.
You already told me you came here for mission work, and you've been here for like 3 years?
Yeah, the first time was 5 years during the pandemic, coronavirus.
Okay.
I actually sailed here.
You sailed here?
Yeah.
Like from the States?
From the Keys, the Florida Keys.
And how long did that take you?
I think 3.5 weeks, something like 27 days, I think. There's like 2 days in Mexico, and then, yeah, a couple more weeks down through the coast of South Mexico and Belize.
Yeah. Dang.
But,
I mean, like by yourself?
Yeah.
Did you run into any problems?
Yeah, it was a hurricane season. I got here in August.
So through a hurricane, you sailed?
Not through a hurricane, but I saw, I think, 3 tornadoes during the time.
Yeah.
The one which was actually within a mile of me. Pretty fun.
Dang.
I didn't really know what I was doing at the time. Pretty new to sailing.
Really?
I bought a $2,000 boat, and
Yeah.
I made it. God got me here, really.
Do you think you would be where you're at today without your faith?
No, I would think I would be dead many times.
And why is that?
There's just too many divine interventions for me to think that God hasn't intervened in my life, especially with the sailing trip. That I'd felt like that trip was supposed to have been in my future. You know, like I think God has seen your life before you've lived it, and I felt like that was something that had to be fulfilled within me. So that to me, that whole trip of 3.5 weeks and the difficulties that I faced during that time are just too strong of an experience for me to ever deny my faith. You know, because his presence was there.
Was it soon after you like accepted Christ that you decided to do all this?
I believed in God my whole life.
Yeah,
So
okay.
I grew up in a Christian family, but there's always difficulty in, you know, my own path that I had to find. So when I was in high school, I had volunteered with Kentucky Changers, and we did some volunteer work, and I'd since struggled for many years with addiction and alcoholism, and especially after college. You know, so there's times that I stumbled, but here recently I've been sober for, I think I'm going on 3 years now.
Wow.
So there's been a lot of in and outs, but my faith has always remained. But it's always been something that I think a person has to find for themselves. because each person's experience is really unique. It's hard for a person to just believe someone else's story if they haven't lived it for themselves. And it's like God has always showed me that he's there. And there's just been too many examples, of his divine intervention in my life for me to ever deny my faith.
And what has this place specifically taught you about God?
Trust, faith.
Yeah.
There's always,
let's say, maybe I should rephrase it, like, what lessons has he taught you?
yeah, there's always those are the times that, I get worked up and anxious about things that aren't going to come to fruition or plan out, and I'm always in the middle of the rut, and I can't see the other side of it very easy. But it's like today, there's a lot of things happening. It's yesterday and the day before as well. I get anxious at night, and I have to stop myself and pray and think about what's going to happen in the future. And it's like I look at today as if I was a couple days ago, and I'm like, everything is done just as God has planned. Everyone's here, things are getting built. All of the problems that I had been anxious over got resolved today, so there was no reason to actually be upset, So there's always those battles that I go through that in the end, it all comes in God's timing and it's his perfect plan. Verse I had recently read, it says, don't be anxious about your life, what you'll wear, what you'll eat, the clothes, because we know more than the birds that store away in the barns, And, I think about that, and it's like the times that I go through difficult times of being broke and having money and wondering where I'm going to get my substance, God is always there, So it's like I have food in my hand right now, And it's like he's always provided for me, and I'm still in good health. And so there's actually no reason to worry about it.
Yeah.
It's a really difficult thing to conceptualize and get around.
Most people struggle with it.
For the love of money, I still feel a deep routed connection with money, and it always shows me through my difficult times that there's still a pull. It says you cannot serve God and money, so I got to remember that sometimes.
Wow.
Whom do you serve?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's idolatry. So another question I had was, what do you think these people need the most?
Other than their, the third world problems that are here and their first person needs, like food, water, air, shelter, maybe even, air. We're talking about passing out the stoves and kids dying of bronchial infections and things like that. I think the bigger picture and what's more important is eternity and what happens after life on as we know it, life as we know it. I think it's the bigger picture of eternity and showing people God's love. If they can't always receive the word as we say it in a different language, we can at least show them love, because the Bible talks about, for the man that does not know love does not know God. And it also says that God is love. So even if I'm not being super evangelic, if I can show them my love through my work, I think that's huge to instill in the lives of the kids and the people in the community, because then they can look at us as an example and see how God works through us, like we're conduits for God. Divinity and eternal life is the bigger picture here. A lot of times I get hung up in the small details, like the trash service and things not working as I had planned. The bigger picture is eternity, and where we spend that time, is bigger than just this finite amount of years in this life.
What would you say to someone in the position that you were at before you pulled the trigger and just sailed down here?
Well, I was struggling for a lot of years with understanding the will of God when I felt that he was speaking to me as maybe I was misinterpreting it. I think it's going to be more of a blessing if you listen to what you think is God rather than speculating if it is God or if it's not God. Because I think bigger picture is, if God thought that you were listening and it wasn't his voice, would he bless you or not? If he thought that you were listening and you were mistaken, or you're not mistaken, it was God. So I took basically images of my life and said, maybe there's a guy that said, Lauren, it's time to go. He was another sailor, and I left. I left after that. There was enough signs in my life that I thought were divine that said that it's the will of God. And there was times that I questioned. I said, if it wasn't the will of God, would he bless me for the idea that I was thinking? And I think we should go more with our intuition and what we think is the will of God, rather than not going, if you follow what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Because I think he'll bless you if you believe you're following.
A good analogy I heard was like, if you're choosing which door God wants you to go through, whichever door you're able to go through is the correct one, because he'll lock the other doors. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think so.
Like,
I think if you decide to go with what you think is God, I think he's gonna care for you during that process.
And let's say if that's not where he wants you to go, then he'll close that door, you know?
Yeah, I've felt
redirect you.
that many times. It's a difficult road to walk when you go through the wrong door, knowing that it's not his will. On top of that, that's a rough one, and you pay for it. Sometimes you have to suffer for years for the decisions that you consciously made.
I know. At least it seems like you're very reliant on where the Lord leads you. Maybe a broad picture, where would you like to be, or where do you see yourself going in the next maybe 10 years?
I think what I think is this time has been a lot of struggle. We gain experience and strength through adversity. And this part of my life has been a lot of adversity. I think in the next 10 years, if I continue to follow him and not let money affect my heart, then he'll continue to guide me. I can't say exactly where that is, but maybe here in the future I'll start a non-for-profit or start my own thing where people can come and volunteer is kind of what my thought is.
Yeah.
As long as I put him first. If I don't, then I'm just going to be living of my flesh, and I don't know where that's going to take me.
You touched on it a little bit already, but what do you believe is the purpose of life?
The purpose of life? Well, I guess it's what perspective you look at it from. But whether it's matrix theory or you think this world is temporary, Jesus said to Pontius Pilate before he died, he said, "My kingdom is not of this world." So it shows that, there is life beyond what we're living. So for me to look at like the temporary constructs and the confinement that we live in this life, it shows that there's something beyond. So whether you believe it's a simulation, or whether you think it's third dimension reality, or whether you just live by faith, I think it goes to show that we're living in a time where we're being judged for training, and we need to prepare ourselves for the next life that we're going to live. It says that we'll be judging angels. So it's like, what am I going to do in this life to be ready for that moment? If I'm to be the one that judges angels, I better be preparing myself right now for the next life that's going to come, which is eternal. I think even from a secular perspective, people that don't believe could maybe understand that perspective as well.
How are you best preparing yourself for that day?
In the perspective that I try to live is, like, say, for example, me eating something, is that temporary or is that eternal? This only feeds basically the works of my flesh. What is feeding the fruit of the Spirit? Is so like the lens that I try to look most of my actions through is what is temporary and what is eternal, what is seen and what is unseen, what is basically the contrast of the work of the flesh or the fruit of the Spirit. And if it's not of something that is eternal, and if it's not of something that is of the fruit of the Spirit, then I should try to fix my eyes closer to what are those two things. So it's more of kind of a logical perspective to look through it, but that's kind of the lens that I want to get myself where I'm looking at these situations through.
How long were you just fasting for?
I do one meal a day.
Oh, okay.
So minus like the weekends, because I try not to be super religious about it. So, like, if someone offers me food or drink, depending on who it is, like if it's a family, I'll eat it in front of them. And then, like, maybe the weekend is shot. But I try to give my fast to God, Before, when I was younger, I did it for, like, health reasons and exercise and things like that.
Have you noticed any health benefits from it? Because they fasted a lot in the Bible.
Yes. Jesus fasted for 40 days, right?
Yeah.
So it's a way to kill demons, basically, cast out demons. Apart from all the science, the stem cells, the growth hormone, the HGH you produce, all of these health benefits, it's been there for thousands of years. And it's meant for killing the demons or the things that afflict a person. Maybe it's parasites, is there any correlation with parasites and demons? There are things that control our desires of our flesh from within inside of us. So I feel like there's a spiritual warfare inside, and there's also a spiritual or in the cosmos as well. So it's from the microscopic to the large scale as well. And maybe drinking a Coke isn't feeding my spirit. But if I pray over something that's toxic, I think God can work miracles. You know, it doesn't have to be toxic. If you bless something before you eat it, I feel it can be health to your body and health to your navel and marrow to your bones. So yeah, there's actually a substantial amount of verses in the Bible that talk about fasting. I don't have all of them offhand, but there's a lot of spiritual reasons to fast for. I think a lot of it is giving up the flesh, works of the flesh, and you're giving a part of yourself for God as long as you dedicate it to Him. If you're not dedicating it to Him, then maybe not nearly as worth it.
To go back to what you were saying about, like, you can't have creation without a creator, right?
Yes.
Like that's what do you want to call it? I guess maybe a piece of evidence that a lot of people use to defend the idea of God and like His existence. So would you say that's probably the biggest piece of evidence that you use, or are there any other like pieces of evidence? I know you said divine intervention, but
Yes. To me, it's more powerful than the scientific, because science, what is it based off of? But even to the scientific level, I have many things that I can explain scientifically, especially how science has progressed, and we found things like proton pumps and flagellar motors and things that actually cannot evolve. You take like a simple DC motor, for example. If you remove one part out of it, the motor can't function. If you break into the microscopic and look up something called the flagellar motor, it's impossible for the thing to actually run with one piece missing. So evolution doesn't actually work that way. So like the neo-Darwinistic theories that came from the 1860s, it's like the scientists have not progressed since the 1860s. And then they find things like the flagellar motor that can't evolve, and you're like, that's down to microscopic bacteria and their propulsion systems. It's down to mitochondria, how they function. There's other organisms that function off of things that can't evolve. This is like the quintessential things that make up our biology. So we have more bacteria in our body, and what's propelling those bacteria inside our body is something that cannot evolve. And it's the propulsion system. It's called a flagellar motor, and they've created 3D diagrams of them, and it's a huge question in science right now, that how are these things coming about? And it's only through divine intervention. We've already known this for thousands of years through Christianity and religion and what's been already written. It's like I shouldn't actually have to look into this stuff. I'm really curious, or I should be able to just have faith. It talks about if you have faith to the size of a mustard seed, you move mountains, right? So if I had a little piece of that, I wouldn't actually have to look into the science.
Yeah.
So it's more to me about faith and divine intervention rather than the science. But the science is good for evangelism, I think. If a person has a good basis in how they can defend their faith.
Do you believe that love itself is a concept that very easily points to God?
If you actually look at the movie Matrix, what broke the Matrix? What were the scenarios that broke the Matrix? One of them was belief, right? So he believed the Matrix was controllable, and that's how he was able to overpass Agent Smith, because Agent Smith was bound to the confines because he represented, in my opinion, the devil or something demonic. And he had to play within the constructs of the Matrix. We don't have to play by those rules, because we're not only physical beings, we're spiritual beings. And through belief, it's kind of controversial, but there's a passage in Scripture that Jesus talked about that we will do greater things than He did because He was going to the Father. He said that to His disciples. So we literally, through the power of belief, have the ability to channel God and create miracles. So it's like, for me, the power of belief can overpower demonic entities. It can overpower the confines of the devil himself through belief, and I believe love, because part of the other movie, part of it was through love. His girlfriend, I don't remember her name at the time, but he was able to break the Matrix as well through love, and it says that God is love. And then, like, there's a lot of correlations with that movie that I think were actually based off of parts of the Bible. But, I mean, it's up for each person's interpretation. That's how I see it in real life as well. Through love and belief, we can create miracles. You know, if two or more gathered in His name, if you have the faith the size of a mustard seed, says that the person who doesn't know love does not know God. You know, it also says that God is love. So it's like through those things, I think that we can break through a lot of the first person problems that we think are super important that aren't even important in the scale of eternity.
And can you elaborate on your belief with the matrix theory for someone that like has never heard of it?
A long time ago, they thought the cell was the smallest thing, I guess. And then after that, it was like, oh, well, we have the atom, and then we have the electron. Well, now they're finding out that atoms, when they're observed, they function as a physical structure. Like I see you, you see me, we're made of atoms, right? It says from dust we come, to dust we return. In a scientific point of view, it would be like from atoms we come, from atoms we return. You know, the dust in this earth is made up of atoms. The structure of your body is made up of atoms. They're finding out that when they're not observed, they actually function as a waveform. Rather than a physical structure, they function as a waveform. When they've observed them inside of the structure that's a physical form, they're 99%, I think to the 13th power, empty space. So not only are they a wave function, but they're also empty space when they're observed as a physical structure. So to me, it points to creation and someone creating something that isn't exactly real as we think it is. This to me is kind of where the matrix program kind of intertwines. Is like you think as a binary code of ones and zeros could be the makeup of our atomic structure. So, but if you look at any sort of computer system, even a radio that has a vibrating quartz crystal, it picks up on what's called a broadcast, right? So you take a television program, for example, a radio wave, for example, computer system, you know, our telephones, these are all broadcasts of information. And what they do is they're received by physical structures that broadcast their information system. What I think the body actually is a form of soft technology that picks up with receptors on our information system, which is our soul or our spirit. That's kind of like the correlation that I think is going on. The problem with the Matrix is that it's more of like a boring or an evil, sinister construct. And I think the creation that God gave us with the earth and the human experience is absolutely gorgeous. If it's Matrix theory or if it's not Matrix theory, I actually don't care either way, because it's an incredible experience that I can touch, taste, see, smell, and hear in this world. I think it's an absolute gift that we get to live here. And I make the best of every moment of it if I can.
All right.